There are thousands of free games out there on Steam, with tons more joining the platform every single day. But it's hard to find games that are actually worth your time, so I've handpicked the absolute best 100 free games on Steam for PC that everyone should know. We're gonna start with Counter-Strike 2. I am sure you know all about it, so I am gonna get it out of the way. It's a free-to-play upgrade to CSGO that comes packed with new, modern graphics, better physics, and refined gunplay. It's still the king of tactical shooters, and if you love competitive FPS action, this is a must-play. Then there's Grapples Galore, a brand new arena shooter that's already caught a lot of attention for its brilliant yet hilarious grappling gameplay. It's a super addicting game, and you will find plenty of players to share the experience with. Up next, we got Dark and Darker, which mixes dungeon crawling with some intense PvP action, where you fight monsters and other players for loot in dark, dangerous caves. If you are into this genre, this is the best one that comes highly recommended from me and my friends. Then, if you want something new and high energy, check out The Finals, a shooter, where you can literally blow up the map, reshaping the battlefield as you fight. It's really one of my favorite shooters that you really need to check out if you haven't already. But maybe you're more into looter shooters. Well, in that case, the First Descendant is really a must-play. It's got crazy weapons, huge boss fights, and deep RPG elements that'll keep you grinding for hours. Not my favorite, but it's a great addition to multiplayer shooters. Next up, we got Marvel Rivals, a hero shooter where you can play as Spider-Man, Iron Man, and a bunch of other Marvel legends in fast-paced battles full of insane abilities. It's already become a massive hit, with millions of players diving in daily. Speaking of RPG-style games, Path of Exile is still one of the best action role-playing games out there. It's deep, complex, and has endless customization for your character. This game can easily offer you hundreds of hours of gameplay. And if you want large-scale warfare, Enlisted is the way to go. It throws you into massive World War II battles where you control entire squads and fight across huge, realistic battlefields. You can also jump in yourself, playing in third-person perspective. Moving on, if extraction shooters are your thing, you might want to play Arena Breakout Infinite. It's a hardcore survival FPS where every match feels like a high-stakes mission. And if that's not intense enough, you might want to check out Once Human, which drops you into a post-apocalyptic world filled with creepy supernatural threats, crafting, and open-world exploration. This one's already become quite a big hit in the free gaming community, so there's still a lot of players. The Were Cleaner puts you in the shoes of a crime scene cleaner, but you are a werewolf, and let's just say your instincts get the better of you sometimes. It's a pretty hilarious game and a strangely satisfying one, to be honest. Torchlight Infinite is the latest in the beloved Torchlight series, bringing fast-paced ARPG combat, deep loot systems, and a fresh art style. If you love Diablo-style games, this one's a no-brainer. Undefeated is an indie superhero game where you fly around a city, punch bad guys through walls, and feel like an absolute powerhouse. It's free, fun, and makes you wonder why we don't have more games like this. Now let's switch gears and talk racing games. Asphalt Legends Unite delivers some of the most high speed, where you not only get to race, but also perform some insane stunts, barrel rolls, and whatnot. It's one heck of a fun racing game. Then we also have Warhammer 40k Speed Freaks, another awesome Mad Max-style vehicular combat game, where you race, ram, and wreck in brutal orc-style mayhem. Next is Bloodstrike, a fast-paced alternative to Call of Duty Warzone, and it's been getting a lot of attention lately, and all for good reasons. I've had a blast with this game because I am honestly a big Call of Duty fan, but that franchise hasn't been the same. But that's a story for another time, I guess. Now, for those who love co-op survival horror, No More Room in Hell is an underrated gem. In this game, you and your friends are trapped in a zombie-infested world with limited resources, and you really have to rely on each other if you want to stay alive. On the other hand, if you're looking for a fun and competitive fighting game with less zombies and more friends, you need to check out Brawlhalla. I think it's still one of the best free platform fighters out there, with a massive roster and super smooth gameplay. The game often gets updated, so you won't get bored anytime soon. Then we've got something completely different, Helltaker. This one's a quirky puzzle game where you recruit demon girls, packed with stylish visuals and a fun story. It looks real simple on the surface, but trust me, the gameplay is highly addicting. Now guys, if you're into MOBAs with a twist, Predecessor is the perfect choice for you. It mixes first-person action with deep strategic gameplay, making it one of the most unique games in the genre. It's a relatively new addition that really deserves all the love it's getting, and more. Then we got Dungeon Defenders 2, which used to be my go-to game back in the day. It's a great one for the fans of tower defense with a touch of RPG mechanics. The game lets you and your friends team up, build defenses, and fight off massive waves of enemies, and it's so much fun. Speaking of dungeons, also check out Borne, which is a more serious and intense dungeon crawling survival game. This one throws you into some of the most challenging situations, but it's equally as rewarding too. Then we got Deathly Stillness, which I am not sure how it is even free. I mean, the game's super good, got a solid gameplay, and even amazing graphics. This one easily keeps you hooked for many hours as you take on an army of undead with a variety of guns. If you love strategy and base building, you should check out Fallout Shelter. It's a great game that lets you take control of your own vault, managing resources, keeping your dwellers happy, and safe from the raiders. It's super addictive and a perfect way to scratch that Fallout itch. Then we got Frontline Inferno, which brings fast-paced modern combat with a unique MOBA twist, something unusual but fun. Tons of weapons, intense firefights, and strategic gameplay make this one stand out from the usual shooters. On the wackier side, Gladio and Glory is a physics-based gladiator game where you fight floppy enemies with swords, shields, and absolute chaos. It's hilarious, brutal, and surprisingly fun to master, which keeps you hooked for hours. Speaking of wacky games, we also got Gun Devil. It's a retro-style shooter that lets you shoot your way through some insane rampage. You get to mow down hordes of demons with insane speed and non-stop action. Then we got this Doom-style, fast-paced FPS game that delivers some solid, non-stop demon-slaying experience. It's even got that retro-style visual art that makes it easy to run on a low-end PC. It's short, but it's super fun. Now let's talk sports a little. Hockey Super Squad is an amazing option for anyone who loves hockey with a touch of action. You get to play with friends, pull off insane trick shots, and just battle for victory in these fast-paced, arcade-style matches. Then we have Marie's Room, which is a short but emotional narrative adventure. You explore a room, uncovering memories and piecing together a puzzle in hopes to find your lost friend. It's a good one for anyone who's into story-driven adventures with a touch of mystery. Next up, we got Micro Works. Now this one is a chaotic party game that comes absolutely packed with lightning-fast microgames. You have everything from puzzles to obstacle courses. It's just a non-stop blast that is especially great with friends. Then we have One-Armed Cook, kind of a cooking simulator where you try to cook up dishes and keep your customers satisfied with just one arm. You'll be flipping burgers, chopping veggies, and trying not to set the kitchen on fire, all while dealing with hilarious physics. But if you are more into action than cooking, check out One-Armed Robber, where instead of cooking, you rob people in places with just one arm. It's really hilarious, and trust me, it will keep you busy for many hours. Palia is a more cozy life sim MMO, where you can farm, fish, build your dream home, and just vibe in a beautiful fantasy world. This one's great, especially if you are into games like Stardew Valley or Animal Crossing. Speaking of cozy and wholesome games, do check out Plasma. It's a more creative game that lets you build crazy contraptions using a powerful physics engine. Think of it like a mix between Gary's Mod and Besiege, perfect for experimenting and making wild machines. If you love creepy online games, SCP Secret Laboratory is a wild, multiplayer horror experience set in the SCP universe. Players take on different roles, scientists, security, or terrifying SCP creatures, and it leads to some unpredictable, intense matches. For something more relaxing, Sheepy, a short adventure, is exactly what it sounds like. It's a short, charming indie game where you guide a cute little sheep on a peaceful journey, but don't think it's not challenging. Then we have Sky Children of the Light, an absolutely beautiful social adventure with friends. The game looks really good, and it offers emotional storytelling and a unique multiplayer experience that makes this one unforgettable. SkyIsland is an adorable adventure platformer where you explore floating islands, solve puzzles, and uncover hidden secrets. It's a pretty awesome game that's sure to keep you busy with its fun but challenging quests. Then we got this super unique FPS game called Spectre Divide, and this one throws you right into intense battles. But unlike most traditional shooters, this one lets you switch between you and kind of your ghost as you fight others. So it's a more strategic take on this action genre. Then there's Steamrush, which delivers a fast-paced steampunk-style action where you dash, jump, and blast through industrial landscapes at breakneck speeds. It looked really interesting, so I picked it up and got really addicted for a while there. Then we have Strinova, which combines intense FPS action with anime-style visuals. But it's very different from other traditional shooters because you are basically like a flat 2D character who can also climb walls like a shadow while taking enemies on. Guys, you gotta check out Supermarket Together if you are looking for a more humor-packed co-op heavy game. This one lets you run a supermarket with friends, and more often than not, things get super crazy. I like to think of it as Overcooked, but in a grocery store. Speaking of innovative ideas, we also have SuperVive, which is a unique mix of MOBA and hero shooter. It certainly delivers the best of both worlds. For something more wholesome, Tadpole Tales is a hand-drawn shoot-'em-up kind of game inspired by by Cuphead, where you play as a tiny tadpole fighting pollution. It's short, challenging, and full of charm. Another game that deserves to be on this list is The Finals, which I really love for its adrenaline-pumping gameplay and destructible environment that makes it feel like a Hollywood action scene. That, combined with dynamic maps and team-based gameplay, make for some insane moments. Then we got The First Descendant, which is a gorgeous sci-fi looter shooter with epic boss fights, deep customization, and a mix of fast combat and tactical gunplay. If you love Destiny-style games, this one's worth checking out. Then we have Unsolved Case, a co-op detective game where you and a friend solve puzzles, piece together clues, and finally uncover the truth. It's a good one for anyone who loves escape rooms and mystery stories. Now, We Were Here isn't like completely free, but a part of it is. Nonetheless, it's a mind-bending co-op puzzle game where communication is everything. You and a friend are separated and you have to help each other describe your surroundings to solve some challenging puzzles together. With You is a short but beautiful co-op experience about connection and teamwork. It's a wholesome game designed for two players, focusing on working together rather than competition. A perfect one for couples. World of Tanks is exactly what it sounds like. Big tanks, massive battles, and explosive combat. This one is for all the vehicular combat lovers on a super tight budget of $0. X-Defiant is Ubisoft's take on a fast-paced arena shooter, mixing factions from their biggest franchises into one chaotic battlefield. It's free to play and a solid alternative for fans of Call of Duty-style action, one of the very few things Ubisoft has done right. Next up is The Supper, which is a rather interesting pixel art horror story game about Miss Appleton, who has been tasked to serve questionable meals to some very eerie guests. Then we got one of the best free-to-play puzzle adventure games called The Looker, and this one promises to keep you hooked and engaged with some of the most interesting and annoying puzzles that are fun. Then Bloody Hell is a top-down bullet hell game where you play as an angel blasting through demons in fast-paced, brutal combat. I am really digging the stylish pixel art in this one, and the action is quite addictive. Next up is Snake Force, which is quite an interesting one, to be honest. This one's like a wild mix of Snake game and a tactical shooter. Every enemy you rescue becomes part of your squad, creating a growing train of gunmen that you control in chaotic firefights. Then we have Straftat, an indie, narrative-driven adventure game that throws you into a crime-ridden city where your decisions shape the story. You will be stuck with some really difficult choices, but that's also what makes the game so fun. I am sure you must have already played Muck, but if you haven't, you really should. It's a low-poly multiplayer survival game where you get to do all the good survival stuff with a side of intense action that's perfect for both new and old players. Then we got this cozy management game called Bronzebeard's Tavern, where you run a medieval fantasy tavern serving drinks, managing brawls, and keeping customers happy. It's got that satisfying, laid-back vibe, but it's super fun to play. Then we have Unturned, which is basically one of the best free-to-play zombie survival games on Steam. It might not look much, but this game mixes Minecraft-like visuals with hardcore survival mechanics that is absolute must-play. If you like scavenging, base building, and chaos, it's a solid choice. If you are more into horror detective games, you need to check out Krypta FM. It's a really eerie game where you are tasked to solve this mystery of some supernatural activity happening around town. Here's another one for the racing game fans, Nightmare Kart. This doesn't look too good, but it plays really, really well. It's a blood-soaked gothic racing game that will definitely bring some nostalgia to PS1 gamers. Reverse 1999 is a stylish, time-traveling RPG with an incredible art style and voice acting. It features exciting turn-based combat that feels fresh, and the story is surprisingly deep. Next one is also for car lovers, but it's not simply a racing game. Screwdrivers is a multiplayer car game where you craft and race janky vehicles through ridiculous obstacle courses. It's kind of like Fall Guys, but with cars that barely function. For anyone who loves sports games, check out Puck. It's a different kind of hockey game where you play hockey, but in a more hostile way, to put it that way. Zumbi Blocks 2 is the sequel to the action-packed zombie shooter that lets you build, shoot, and survive waves of the undead. It's a classic in the making for fans of old-school online survival games. Then we have Caliber, a tactical third-person shooter that really puts an emphasis on teamwork and strategy. I like to think of it as Rainbow Six Siege, but free and super easy to play on low-end PCs. Moving on, we got Omega Strikers, which is like air hockey meets League of Legends. It's fast-paced, team-based, and full of action. You get to enjoy intense 3 versus 3 matches, and every character has unique abilities, which makes it more replayable. FPS Chess is exactly what it sounds like, a chess, but with guns. Instead of traditional moves, pieces battle in first-person shooter duels. It's kind kinda crazy, but trust me, it's so much fun. Moving on, Awaria is a surreal indie puzzle game with some mind-bending mechanics and a really mysterious-looking world. It's one of those hidden gems that messes with your brain in the best way. Pumpkin Panic is a cozy farming game until it's not. What starts as a chill gardening sim turns into a horror experience where something really sinister haunts your fields. And now, you gotta figure out what. Then we have this super fun action platformer called Pizza Apocalypse, where you play as a chef fighting the enemies with your pizza. It's a wild game with pretty solid controls that shines with its wacky gameplay. Next up is Hollow Cure Save the Fans. It's a free-to-play fan game inspired by vampire survivors, featuring HoloLive VTubers battling waves of obsessed fans in an addictive, pixel art bullet hell. Then we have A Date with Death, which is a short but charming visual novel where you kinda go on a date with death. It's funny, sweet, and unexpectedly deep game. Then we have Post Mouse, which is also a short story-driven experience where you play as a tiny mouse that delivers mail throughout the jungle. You will be facing a variety of troubles and platforming challenges, but the reward is equally as great. Red Hot Vengeance is a stylish, top-down shooter that really gives me like Hotline Miami vibes. It's got a tight gunplay, a cool revenge story, and plenty of levels for you to tear through. Island Saver is a surprisingly fun and educational action-adventure game where you clean up pollution, save animals, and manage money. It's kind of like the popular Slime Rancher game, but with more environmental awareness. Illusion Carnival is one of the mind-bending adventures that throws you right into a mysterious, dreamlike world full of puzzles and strange characters. It's basically a carnival that challenges you to go through some of the wildest missions. And it looks really, really mesmerizing. Then we have Super Animals Royale, a more simplistic top-down take on battle royale genre that throws 64 adorable but deadly animals into a battle. You got plenty of weapons, skills, and tools to become the last animals standing. Next up is High Entropy, a first-person immersive sim with a lot of hacking, stealth, and puzzle solving. I like to think of it as System Shock meets Portal, with a heavy focus on environmental storytelling and some super weird robots. Try Again is a short yet mind-bending platform runner that plays with the idea of failure and repetition. It puts you in some really sticky situations, and every time you die, the level subtly changes, which makes these obstacle courses much more difficult. Pineapple on Pizza is a game that's not really a game. It's all about you trying to ruin the party of these dancing people on some cozy island. Then we got this cute little puzzle game called Handshakes, where you and a friend control two hands and have to maneuver them into a handshake. It's a pretty simple concept, but the puzzles get surprisingly tricky. Doronko Wanko is a game about this cute dog who loves creating mess, and you have to help it do just that. It's really just goofy, adorable game that will keep you entertained for quite a while. Life is Strange is an absolute masterpiece of a mystery and puzzle game with a deep choice-driven gameplay. While it's not completely free, you can check out episode 1, which introduces you to Max Caulfield and her time rewinding powers in this emotional adventure. Now, this next game is quite a different thing. It's about a guy who's fed up with spiders and has decided to kill them all. You have to find them hiding inside random places and kill them with a variety of weapons. Then we got DYO, a unique co-op puzzle platformer where you control two minotaurs trying to solve puzzles with ever-changing environments and character sizes. It's a pretty unique game that really puts your teamwork to the test with these mind-bending challenges. It's a fun little game to play with a friend. We also got Night Runner's Prologue, a demo to this awesome open-world game that lets you take part in illegal street races to outrun the cops. This game's got some super good dark vibes to it and a style that I really dig. Next up is another great racing game, especially for gamers who are into Mario kind of kart racing games. This one looks really good, but also super chaotic in the best way possible. Next up, we have Throne and Liberty, which is a pretty popular MMORPG that offers some of the best PvPvE experience. It's got dynamic world events, a deep combat system, and stunning visuals. Then we got Polygon, a low-poly FPS that feels like a mix of Battlefield and Counter-Strike. It's simple, stylish, and offers intense team-based battles without unnecessary fluff. Perfect to run on a low-end PC. Fear of the Light is literally like the opposite of what we see in horror movies. In this one, light is your enemy and darkness is your only refuge. It's a terrifying and unique survival experience where you try to stay safe from some super terrifying creatures. Then Brighter Shores is a cozy fantasy RPG that offers some deep world building and turn-based combat. If you love classic adventure games with some heart, this one's definitely worth checking out. We also have UFL if you fancy a bit of soccer. It's actually a pretty amazing game right there with the likes of FIFA and PES, but it's totally free to play. Then we have Saturn. I am not really a big fan of this game, but it's great for anyone who loves tactical turn-based RPGs. In this one, you control these robots and fight epic battles. I'm gonna end this list with Alien Swarm Reactive Drop, which is an addictive twin-stick co-op shooter heavily focused on team-based tactics. It will put you through some hardcore levels with a variety of enemies. Then we got another Among Us kind of game called Goose Goose Doug. It's just as wacky and fun as Among Us, and it's also super friendly for a potato PC. You might have already played this one, but I just had to mention Poppy Playtime. It's a super fun and challenging puzzle horror game where you try to survive in an abandoned toy factory. And of course, I had to save the best for the last, Team Fortress 2, or you guys aren't gonna be happy. This one's still one of the best team-based shooters ever made. The unique classes, hilarious voice lines, and chaotic multiplayer make it just as fun today as it was back in the day.